And if I wanted to get that kind of a taste of flavor, I needed to pay more. So what I started to realize, another time I was living in Cape Town, I then realized that, okay, one, eating healthy has been made very expensive, but also the food is not following the people. It does not matter how many times the demographics of an area changes, the food system remains the same. So it changes for some people coming outside of the continent. So if you suddenly have got an Asian community in a particular area, you're going to start to see a lot of Asian vegetables and some of the outlets. And if Canadians moved into a particular area, there'll suddenly be some of these exotic vegetables that we don't know. And the people that grow those tend to have the budget to promote and encourage and tell us how amazing these things are and that they are good for us, they are good for everything else. I mean, how many of you remember with the introduction of kiwi fruit in this country? I moved to Gauteng in the early 90s. And I remember, I mean, it was the first time I was seeing a green fruit. And I thought if it was green, it's still growing. It must still be in the tree. And then I got to Gauteng and I was living in Randburg and suddenly I see this kiwi fruit. It was the yellow kiwi fruit were only introduced later, but we started with the green ones. And honestly, as you get to the shop, there were activation, making you to taste. There were little flyers giving you the health benefits of these things and what you can do with them and all of that other stuff. So I started to interrogate our food system living in Cape Town, why I would find the pumpkins in the shops, but there were no pumpkin leaves. But then I also realized that what happened was that the pumpkins that were promoted, first of all, they were not the ones that I would say, if pumpkins are not indigenous to the continent, they've become part and parcel of our heritage food. So a lot of people in the different African countries and in rural South Africa, people eat pumpkin leaves. If they walked into the shop and they found spinach and pumpkin leaves, they'll go for the pumpkin leaves. So they are free to choose their greens based on what is available on the shelves. Because you have to choose between the Brussels sprouts, the green beans, the peas, green cabbage, and whatever other stuff that is there. So your choices have already been limited. So I struggled to find what I call food while living in Cape Town. I had to go down to some dingy, dodgy places in Cape Town, like find yourself in the Maitland train station looking for food, or somewhere down in Obbs and Salt River. You know, there's a part of Cape Town that is still not nice, but that is where the expat community was residing, and they were having some of these little shops. That's where then I would go and find the nice sweet potato, the ones, I mean, if you think sweet potato, you know, sweet potato, it's supposed to be sweet. But the ones we find from the shop, they're not sweet. You have to add something to make them sweet. So if I wanted proper sweet potato, like I know it from Pumalanga, I had to go a little bit further to find food. So it started to be a problem. We started to interrogate, and I could find goat cheese. I couldn't find, I couldn't find goat meat. Where's the meat? Why is there the cheese? Why is there's the milk, but there is no. And then I only later learned, okay, fine. So there's goat cheese because people are focusing on goats so that are for the milk to milk them, not necessarily on the meat side. So why are we not raising that when we know we've got our own indigenous, felt goats and stuff like that that are easy to raise, easy, just like you've got the woolly cattle and stuff like that. But we do not promote those kind of stuff. We'll go and find the stuff that's very difficult, that you've got to go travel, that you've got to be trained on how to raise these things. And yet the stuff of that is natural. Even if you have got workers, you don't even have to train them because they grew up amongst these things. They know it already. But we choose to go and do business a very difficult way. So I then moved to Joburg, and I had the opportunity of getting into one entrepreneurial program while I still had my corporate job. I just got tired of finding myself in a 6 o'clock flight, which meant that I had to be up at like 3, be picked up by the shuttle, or drive myself to the airport, park, and come back a day or 2 days later. I don't even remember where I parked. You thought you made a mental note to that. You are in the blue block and you come back, you're walking around and you're thinking, okay, calm down, please don't have a heart attack. Because now what's going through your mind is that your car has been stolen, and it has not been stolen. You'd walk up and down, you'd go to the security guard and say, please can you help me? I need to find my car. By that time, the system was not sophisticated that they can put and see which block you at exactly. No. Right now, at least it's even easy. There's numbers. Before then, you didn't even have those kind of stuff. You just okay, I park next to a Pajero, but then the Pajero is not there. So your landmark is wrong. And I remember one time I flew to Malawi for business while working for this company. So I wake up in Cape Town, drive to the airport. I think I was driven to the airport because I was going to be gone for a week. Get to Cape Town airport, get to OR Tambo. I'm standing through long queue to process myself, get through to the other side, and then the long way. And then we have to be driven from the long way to Blantyre. So I asked the driver, I said, how long is this thing going to take? He said to me, it's going to take us about 3 hours. The road trip from the long way to Blantyre took us 5 hours. There were no ablution facilities. So I asked the guy, I mean, he had sparkling and still water. So I asked him, I said, are we going to be able to will there be toilets along the way? He said, it depends on what you call it. So it was clear I was going to go to the bush, and I thought, okay, where's the nearest, in South Africa, I'm starting thinking, where's the nearest place where we can find the venom snakes here in case I get better. I thought it was not a good idea. So for 5 hours, I didn't have water. And I got to this hotel, check in, and get to my room, look at my watch. I had been up for 17 hours. And I thought there is nobody on this earth that can pay me anything that justify why I've been up for 17 hours. If it was for leisure, I wouldn't mind. And I started to think, and I was sitting there, and I think that is where I made the decision that I was getting out of here and I was going to become a farmer. And I went back to Cape Town. I went to my chief executive. I told him, I said, listen, I'm done with this job. And I told him what 3 positions I can do within the group. And I said, if you can place me in any of those, I'll be happy. Otherwise, I'm going to look elsewhere. Because at that time, I wasn't ready. I didn't have the capital to go start your business. Because when you've got your full-time job, you leave from one payslip to the other. You are busy saving money in financial instruments. That means that you're only going to have your money when you're 55. So when you want to leave corporate at the age of 40, and some of the money you can't touch, or if you're going to touch it, half of it is going to go to the taxman. So it just did not make any economic sense for me to exit at that time. Fast forward to me getting to Gauteng, and I really knew. So each event I went to, a kind of meeting and networking with people, and I knew that I was getting out, I was getting to get into farming. So I finally got into farming. And this is now 2015. In my head, I was going to start a business that was going to grow food for African expats living in South Africa. That was the purpose of African Marmalade, to grow food for African expats living in South Africa. Now, because these are the guys that still adhere to their food. If you run a business, whether it's a shop or anything like that, and you hire somebody from Zim or from Malawi or somewhere, you're gonna suddenly start to see them having their own garden with chomolia, with mustard, spinach, and all sorts of other stuff, and some other beans. And they will go to Marabasta to fetch their own food or somewhere downtown. So then I realized, okay, here there is a captive market. I don't have to teach them what this is. So that means it's a business. At least I can sell this produce to them. And then I would later cultivate the market that I need to educate of, oh, what is this? Because the other one is still, so what is this? I'm a chartered marketer. So I knew that is going to be a difficult market to start explaining, because I need to first explain before we even get to conversion. The others already know what this thing they're looking for. They might just have got a problem with the price, but at least they know what it is. The other ones have said, what is this? How does it taste like? Because now I've got to explain to the other person, oh, it tastes like a potato, or it tastes like this. That's a very difficult way to sell to people. So I then decided, fine, this is what I'm going to grow. And I started growing indigenous African crops. And I started at the wrong year. 2015 was the year of the drought. So I lost the money that I put into this business. It was not even my money. I had gone through an entrepreneurial program, got given $5,000 which is about 75,000, and I planted during the year of the drought. I also did not even have a farm. I was not residing at a farm. Farming is one thing that you really cannot cut out. If it rains too much, you're thinking, okay, when is it stopping? Because I want to go out and check what's happening to my plant, to my animals. If it's too hot, you're starting to think about your animals and your crops or whatever. So you've got to be living on that land to make it work. Otherwise, this is just like putting money, somewhere on the upper side of the river and hoping that, you're going to find it downstream. It's not going to happen. So I started focusing on growing indigenous African crops. But before I did that, First of all, I needed to understand what were people eating? And I had to start thinking to pre-colonial time because people have got short memories. So they don't remember what they were eating. And I had to think back, okay, so what were people eating and what was common among the people? So for instance, if you talk cowpeas, these beans, there is no group in South Africa that doesn't know them. Whether Musutu, you Venda, you Tonga, you Swazi, you Ndebele, you whatever, they know them. But Basutu will say, Kidina Watastasutu. But one about Kidina Watastra. Amazula Timbumba, Indumba. Amaswati called Timfumayo, the Tonga say Timbawen. So everybody knows them. So it was the easiest of them to grow. But they're also the second most popular beans in the continent. So it meant that I was able to get the local market plus the export market of those guys that are now living in South Africa. And what was good about this thing is that they are the best nitrogen fixers, after beans like peach and peas. And they also make business sense that actually you sell the fresh leaves. You also dry the leaves. So you dry the leaves. So you're selling the fresh leaves. You can also dry them. So when you've got an abundance of these, you can also use them. But you can also use them as your green manure. So that's also that's good for the soil. You can also take them and then give them to your livestock. So it works in animal feed, it's for human consumption, and it's good for the soil. Then you also have got the beans, which you can sell while fresh, just like you have with your green beans. You can boil those, add salt, and snack on them, or you can take them out of the pot and cook them and have them as fresh beans, or you could let them dry and then be able to cook them as beans. They make some of the most amazing bean patties and bean balls, but you can also now sell them as seeds. Because right now, if you're looking for these beans, so you need 25 kg of this to plant a hectare. So if you're looking for 25 kg of these cowpeas, where are you going to find them? You can't find them, I've got them, but other people don't. And if you do find cowpeas, in most instances, you're going to find the white one, not these colorful ones. Yeah. So now you're struggling because you know which one. So if you're coming from Zim or Zambia or whatever, you know exactly you're looking for these, but you're not going to find them. Whether coming from Mozambique, you're not going to find them. Because what happens with a lot of the seed breeders, so seed breeders are not committed to food diversity and food sovereignty. What they do, if there's like 6 different cultivars, they look at the most profitable one, the one that gives you the highest yield. They don't focus on taste, flavor, and whatever, or cultural, heritage. They're not interested in that. For them, it's a pure business. They really don't care. It might not even be the best one for that particular soil, but they will promote it. So we're sitting with those challenges when it comes to looking at how we actually practicing regenerative agriculture. So when you're sitting out there looking for stuff, you've got to say, is this the right one that I'm actually buying? Is it the one that is ideal? And again, our seeds, when you're getting them from the various people, you're going to buy from one lady selling there. Remember, she's not selling you seeds, she's selling you beans for consumption. You are still going to have to sift through that stuff. You're still going to have to take out the weevils and whatever, and those ones that have holes and whatever. You go through all of that stuff. So you bought a 10 kg, the 10 kg becomes 7 kg. So you've lost out in terms of that because you didn't buy a seed. So people don't seem to understand that there is a seed and there is a bean that is meant for consumption. What you're getting for consumption in most cases is that it's a B grade, not even first grade. The first grade, a lot of people will sell to top retail outlets. Some of the retail outlets don't even have class 1 of the produce. They have got class B. So we're sitting here now. So these cowpeas were one of those things that I identified as a strategic crop that we needed for regenerating the soil and giving the grower multiple revenue streams, but also giving the consumer many options in terms of what they can eat as well. And I began obviously to be able to know this one, there's one that will kind of creep, and then there's one that's kind of a bush. Because if somebody has got a small garden, if you've got a small veg patch like the size of the space within, it would not make sense for us to say to you, oh, grow pumpkins and grow sweet potatoes and all of those things at one space. We might say, put in two sweet potatoes, maybe just one breach of sweet potato, that's for your family, for your own, that should be enough. Put in two pumpkin seeds and then try and support them, just because this space would be enough to feed the family, but you need to be strategic about how you apply them. So in our focus then was to say, there were a number of things that we found in our business. But one was that households were not growing their own food. People aren't growing their own food. They're relying on going to buy at the shops. And I think during lockdown, we realized how dangerous that approach is. Because people starved without money, with money in their pockets. When you're terrified, when you had an adult person, a senior person in the house, that you were afraid for them because you might be stronger enough to survive the virus, but what if now you pass it to your mom or to your aunt or your grandmother and you live with that guilt because you went out in search of food? And people no longer even have stuff in their pantries, because I remember when I grew up, my grandparents' pantries had all sorts of canned stuff. They had all sorts of dried vegetables, but right now you don't find that. So if they said to us as we go to our homes today, and they said to us, guys, there is this scary thing outside there, nobody should go outside. How many people would have food for at least 2 weeks? We would not have food. We would starve. When lockdown happened, I was living down at the Cradle of Humankind, and all I had was a tray of eggs, 2 tins of fish, and those were the animal proteins I had. And then I had a lot of vegetables in the field. And all I needed to do was to garden the field, look around while checking the plants, end up deciding, okay, today I'm going to have the pumpkin leaves as my green and whatever, and pick stuff that I wanted to have. And that's how I went through. It was only later when you could kind of venture outside. But I mean, we were exempted because we were farmers, so at least, we could venture outside. But most of the time, we were harvesting and making sure we have organic boxes that were going out to people. Somebody living in Midrand with the mom in Soweto order a box for themselves and also for the mother. So we were very busy. The Uber guys and the Bolt guys had no business because the hospitality industry had shut down, but we were able to sustain and support those guys because literally every day there were either like 3 or 4 of those vehicles coming into our farm to take food to people. So what urbanization has done meant that, so when you move from a rural area to an urban area, you've got less space, that you're residing in. So if you build your mansion, you've got no garden space. But the worst thing that people do, the first thing that they do, which is part of urbanization, is that people actually then pave. They pave or they have got the lawn. Beautiful stuff. I've got roses, I've got flowers, I've got nothing against ornamental stuff, but at least grow something edible between those things. Because you're not going to be able to eat those flowers even if you wanted to. No matter how beautiful they are, they're not meant for consumption. You can decorate with them on your table. You're not going to eat them, so you're going to starve with those beautiful flowers. So people are paving, and in that paving, they're also affecting what is happening ecologically, because now you're affecting the course of that water. Basically, so some of the natural disasters are coming as a result of us not really adhering to nature. Because now we've decided, okay, we put in a paving, so that water will come from that top there, but we'll see how it goes. Now, the thing is that the water never forgets its roots. It might forget for a while, or it might decide to find other alternatives. One day it's just going to come back and decide, this is my road, this is how I'm going to pass here. And then your house will be split into two. So we need to go back into those kind of stuff to say, can we just get back into getting people not to pay their properties? It's unnecessary, unless you say, no, when it rains, you get mud and whatever. You can do something for the front of the house and maybe accessing the back and whatever, but there is no need for this massive paving that people are coming up with. They have actually reduced their space for growing food, so we need to go back and fix those kind of stuff. So we started talking to people to say, please grow your own food, but we also said, indigenize your garden. We've seen water cuts, moratoriums, and whatever they're calling them, where yes, you are paying for the water, but they decide you can't water, you can't even fill up your own pool, you can't water your garden. Now you're growing your own food, but you are growing water-guzzling plants. So it doesn't really help you. So when we go back into regenerative agriculture, is that what is it that we can grow that is not going to take too much effort, that's also not going to take quite a lot of water. Things that are going to complement one another. You know, it's good for the soil, it's good for the environment, it's good for you, it's good for everybody. So we start to say a lot of the indigenous crops are drought resistant. They are very resilient. A lot of them kind of grow. That's why people call them wild, because they think, I didn't plant this thing. If you eat the African horned cucumber today while you're standing there, tell you next time it rains, you're going to have all of these cucumbers all over the shore. And you didn't plant them. Same thing with the African melon, you know, what the Africans call makatan. You know, that melon, all it does is that you eat one, you cook whatever thing, where you were preparing it, you sit outside while you're busy chopping and preparing the seed goes somewhere there, you're going to, and they say, who planted this? What are these? I see a lot of people in WhatsApp groups and saying, or Facebook, what is this? I don't know. You know, help me to identify those. They did not plant it. Somebody happened to walk along that way, or a bird dropped the seed. Now, the other thing that we also need, what we also understood was that, so we're getting a lot of, we're losing a lot of our bird life. Of course, what happened is that we're no longer growing the plants that attract nature to our gardens. We're currently growing sorghum in Skierport, which is in Northwest, but just very close to airport. And we planted 13 hectares of sorghum. We are the only people growing sorghum in that valley. Everybody else is growing whatever. And the birds come and camp on our field. But we did something very ingenious. We planted pearl millet. A pearl millet grows taller than sorghum. And the birds descend on the pearl millet and they eat that and not. So we didn't have to do the method of CDs or putting tins, you know, to capture to attract the birds, and maybe because if they get onto the tins or on that string or whatever wire and then start to rattle, then they actually kind of run away. But we didn't have to do that because that was a lot of effort. Can you imagine trying to run those lines on 13 hectares? So what we did, we planted what you call a sacrificial a plant, which was then in this case the millet. Now this is the millet. It's got more seeds than, say, the sorghum thing. So it's keeping the bird very busy. Pass this for people to see. So it's keeping the birds very busy. So we planted the right crop, and it's really helping us. And we've also put in things like the sweet sorghum, and we also have got the white sorghum. So you can imagine how busy then those birds are while our crops are safe.
So these are the seeds.
Yeah. So this is the white sorghum, and then this is,
and it can replace rice.
So then you have got your red sorghum there. So there you have got red sorghum. But then the sorghum grows shorter, so it's going to be standing like this while the pearl millet is going to be this high. So the birds descend on that, and they like go back and back and back and back. So you can pass around for people just to see this. So that's what we actually did. And we had a lot of African leafy greens that are growing with them amongst those. And sunflowers. And you can plant things like your sunflower also just to keep the birds busy as well. So we have got that opportunity. And so one of the things that we try to do, because we remain true to what we are all about, we've become the go-to when somebody's looking for something indigenous. And we've encouraged people to say, you know, we're selling seeds, but we also want people in other provinces to start getting the seeds to adapt in their area. So if you ask me, oh, does cassava grow in the Northern Cape? I don't know, because nobody has ever planted it. But I always say to people, we look into what temperature does that plant require? How much rainfall does it require? And what type of a soil? So if you could answer those three questions, then it's fine. Try it, you know, on a small scale. If it works, then you can continue, you can grow big. But you can also now start to supply seeds to other people in the area, because your seed would have now adapted, say, for instance, to the environment of the Northern Cape. Just like if somebody in Tabazimbi starts growing the Bambara beans, the seed that he has would have been adapted to that environment compared to somebody sitting in say, for instance, in Northern Zululand. So we need to look into all of those kind of stuff. So the more people, so people always say to me, but Siphiwe, aren't you pushing yourself out of business? I said, no. I've got the first mover advantage. I did this thing first. Everybody else can kind of learn from me. I've gone and done on a bigger scale. Not only did I focus on growing the produce, but what I did, I started to be able to aggregate. Because you've got better land, you've got more land. I don't. Some people are saying, look, I'm scaling down. I want to focus on cattle, but I've got this arable land. I don't know what to do. I want to be growing cabbages. And then they come to me and say, what can we grow? And we then go into partnership to say, okay, fine. You've got this 20 hectares. I think this is what we can grow. It's a low maintenance. We're only going to need, weeding once or twice or something like that. And this is the estimated yield per hectare. And this is the average price we can get per ton and all of that. It becomes a win-win solution. Because these high maintenance things are just not working for either the farmers or many other people. So we focus on that and then started to say, okay, so we encourage more people to grow. If somebody said, I've got a piece of land, what can I grow? I said, please can you grow groundnuts? They're going to be fixing your soil. They're going to do ABC, and they've got a longer shelf life. You don't have to worry about selling them tomorrow, because we can sell them in shells. We can also de-shell them. So now we start to do the low-risk crops. Because we've also seen what happened. The South African agricultural industry has been based on selling for export. You get this market, but the problem is that these export markets are arrogant. I mean, if you think about how arrogant the EU is, they just decide one day, no, we're changing the rules. But now your crops are like 1 month away from harvest. They don't really give a damn about you. You're going to start. We've seen what happened to the citrus farmers. I mean, oranges were dumped in a lot of places in the Eastern Cape and wherever, because these guys, the major customers, have decided to change the rules of engagement, and they didn't give a damn about us. So suddenly the farmers went into ruin. We've seen a lot of an increased number in suicide because we depended on an external market. And the problem is that what we also need to understand when it comes to doing stuff that, remember, so when you're looking at Regen, it's not only focusing on the livestock and the crop, but you're also looking into the communities. So it doesn't really help you if you are the only one that is successful, that has got food, that has got the money to do anything and go on vacation. Because we need to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. We cannot keep on sleeping with one eye open and like 6.5 rifles and shotguns and all of that other stuff. Because it is because of this flawed system where it makes you a gum tree amongst the shrubs. And honestly, if you're standing there as a gum tree, you're the first person the bullet is going to go to you, not into those shrubs. So we need to start thinking about this thing, what we need to do in order to live in harmony and celebrate our diversity as a society and as a country. So we need to make sure that we reintroduce a balanced food system that takes care of everybody. There is enough food in this country for everyone if we're growing the right kind of food. We also need to make sure that food must follow the people. If people from Limpopo are now a huge chunk of the population in Gauteng, what are we feeding these people? Why must they only eat their food when they go home? But the Chinese people can have pak choy. Because the farmers are switching, cabbage is too much work, then they're switching into pak choy and other stuff. We've seen what has happened to the farms in the east, in what used to be the East Rand, in Ekurulen. There's a lot of Asian farms there growing the pak choys and the whatever other vegetables that are needed in the Thai cuisine and the Chinese and whatever other Asian food. We've also seen, the explosion of Indian vegetables. So you go to some of the supermarkets, there is Indian vegetables, but there are no African vegetables. But we're in Africa, so if you work in Center, you must do other stuff so you can buy meat and whatever other stuff in the big supermarket. Then you must cross the freeway to go to Alex to buy your own food, because the system has decided it's not going to be catered for. So the businesses are losing because this doesn't make sense. Why are you growing something that takes so much of your effort, so much of your time? But why you also grow stuff that people can steal easily? You grow maize every year. The maize farmers are complaining, even in the Free State. This thing gets stolen. So why are we growing it? Then you've got the whatever worm that attacks it again. Then it doesn't get enough rain at the right time and whatever. It's like growing vegetables in ICU. Can we just put these vegetables in the general ward, the right ones? Because we are really struggling, and that is why it's so difficult. And if you are a farmer, your children are not interested in joining you because all they can see is suffering and poverty. You are stressed, come month end, it's one of the problems. You're worried, you're thinking, oh yeah, the workers, how am I gonna face my guys, how am I gonna pay them? It is a struggle, it is an effort. every month from farmers. In the meantime, there is stuff that you could grow. And remember, when you're starting, obviously, you're going to make more money from some of the other stuff. Somebody said, okay, let me tell you a story. What happened this week? I don't remember which day, but so we grow cassava. So we started growing cassava. Cassava, it's a tuber. It's like sweet potato. It's long, whatever, like I'm a dumbe, but a long kind of a root crop that takes about 6 months to grow. Easy, low maintenance. You put the cuttings there, forget about them, get rain fed. So we went, started harvesting. And we had been selling the cassava leaves. The Congolese and many other people love that. I come from Mpumalanga, we eat that, we crush them, and then we put pounded peanuts, and we've got a protein balance dish. So we eat that. So now we're starting to harvest our cassava roots, and we post, we do stuff on Facebook, and we're getting all these requests from people, wanting 2 kg, 10 kg, and whatever other stuff. And so I don't know how many of you know Yasmin. It's in the yeah. So then we normally go to Yasmin. They sell some of the good quality stuff from your raw milk and other stuff. So we're looking for certain stuff, cheese or whatever. So we're there, and so I walk in there. One of the guys that normally helps us when we go to buy stuff, he's on the fresh produce side. So he then sometimes we're looking for okra when we run short. And then he says to me, "Oh yeah, so what are you guys busy with?" I said, "No, we're busy harvesting sorghum at the moment." And he said, "Oh yeah, but we're also harvesting cassava." I said, "What? Cassava?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Where do you grow it?" I said, "Yeah, in Gauteng, in Lizonia." Like, surprise. I said, "Some of it's growing in Mpumalanga." So I take him my phone, I show him the pictures of the cassava, of the African melons, and all other. He gets very excited. He said, "I want." So he's ordering. He said, "Next time you come here, please can you bring me the following?" And then I said, "Yes." He said, "Can I go show these pictures to my supervisor and tell him about what you guys are growing, and maybe, which is okay, then we can start, they can order." So there he goes, shows this to the supervisor. Supervisor comes to me and says, "Okay, ma'am, can you please bring me samples and prices of your produce?" And then I'll show to my boss. If my boss is happy, then we can order. Fine, no problem. So we go harvest this thing. So we cook the thing. The other thing, what I always do, I make it a point that people know what this thing is. Because normally the buyer or the person that must decide whether you're going to get into the shelf doesn't even know what this thing is. Doesn't even know that people eat it. But he must make a decision and say, yeah, it must be in the shelf. So we then cook the sweet potato because we're trying to show them our sweet potato is different. But we were not going to supply the sweet potato because we know we're going to get into the price wars. Yeah, this one we're getting it so much at the market. We know the market sweet potato. So I didn't want to get into the stuff where I had to be competing. So we just clear the African cucumbers and the cassava. So we get there, we've cooked it for them to taste. So we had the order for the gentleman that works at the shop at Yasmin, and then we had the samples for the supervisor. So we harvest our sorghum in Skiaport. We come, we go to the receiving, we tell them we're here to see this lady, and then there she comes and she's like, "Oh, okay, fine." And then when you go to those receiving thing, everything, pallets and whatever fancy thing that they do there, fine. So people now, we have this big bowl with sweet potatoes and cassava. Did we not cause a commotion? Like literally, the receiving side of Yasmin came to a standstill. Everybody came for a piece of cassava. They were eating. Even the ones that did not know. So what is that? They said it's cassava. There was one lady from KZN who knows it. Tell other people. It was fascinating. People were having fun. And literally from the security guard to every person, they were excited. They were eating. There were Malawian guys that work at Yasmin. The guys from Zimbabwe. Everybody was excited. And the supervisor, at least she knew the African cucumbers. And I said to her, so I gave her a pack and I said, "Oh, these are tasters. Just peel them, slice and put them there for the customers to taste, for those that don't know." And she said, "No, this is no, but I need to push the volumes because I've got a lot of these things growing in the farmers. So what must I do with these? So the long and short of it was that they also before we had to do the delivery, after we had told the price, she said to me, "How much are you selling your cassava?" I said, $20 a kilo. Now, how many vegetables can you sell at 20 rands a kilo in this country? Very few. You don't even sell what you call this cauliflower. I'm talking as a farmer. It's because this is now my price as a farmer. I said $20 a kg. And they said to me, "How much are your cucumbers?" I said 8 rands each. No problem. Fine. So obviously went and told the boss. We get to the parking lot. As I'm about to start the car, I get they're waving and say, "Please stop." And I said to my team, I had 4 guys in the car, 2 ladies and 2. you guys, I hope you didn't steal anything here because I've never been followed after leaving the shop. She said, no, Mama, we didn't. So fine. So, and then I see, oh, there she is. That's her. So she comes in and she says to me, how much can you supply me this week? I said, it's up to you. How much do you want? So can I have 100 kilograms of cassava and can I have 50 cucumbers? So there was no negotiation on the price. They accepted the price as is, but if I was carrying something that other people are supplying, we would have entered into a price war. I've done this thing with some of the retailers I know. They said, no, you say 15, so why not profit? And you're sitting there with the buyer arguing over the price until finally you agree. Here it was where price givers, not price takers. So the price was accepted. And the following day, we delivered our 100 kilograms, first 100 kilograms of cassava at Yasmin and 50 cucumbers. And the lady said to me, please expect my call on Saturday.
And by the staff first.
Yeah. And this is gonna so now when they're ordering, they need to be thinking, okay, we need to make sure that maybe 30% is gonna go to the staff and then the rest is gonna go to the customers. Otherwise, the customers are never gonna get anything. And we know this has happened. So these things happen. So there are opportunities for us to grow the right thing, to live a less stressful life by doing stuff that is good for the soil, good for us, and good for everybody. I'm gonna pass this for those of you. So this is pearl millet. After you've taken it out of there, and this you can crush into a mill and into a flour, and it is naturally gluten-free. Not taking out something to make it gluten-free. Naturally gluten-free. This is your white sorghum. So a lot of kids grew up eating sorghum. Even whether you want to make a mahe, you can also turn it into flour, and this is your cowpeas, and these are the bambara beans. I'm just going to pass that. So there is a future in working in harmony with nature, not against nature. Grow what is indigenous to the continent. There is a market for it. This is the market, the same thing. Let me announce this to the farmers. This is the market that's not going to give you an off-take agreement. Because it means that you'd have to go door to door and find the people to say, if I put this in a shop, would you buy? They're not going to give you an off-take. So you would have to use your own money to grow this thing. Trust that this is going to work. But we've already cultivated some of the markets. We know exactly where those things are. So we're in a position now to start giving an uptake and say, please go and grow the bambara beans. Do the 5 hectares. We are the uptaker. So at least you're growing it for African marmalade, and they can then do the due diligence on us and say, okay, fine, you've got a buyer for that. Then they finance you if you want that. So there is great opportunity. Let us go out there. Let us re-indigenize our fields. Let us walk around there, see stuff. Also, the more people that are growing indigenous, it means there's more food for even the animals. There's more food for birds. We are not the only one. So even if there's lots of birds that can eat sorghum, but can you imagine if 200 farmers in this region were growing sorghum and whatever other stuff? The birds will be spoiled for choice. So they'll come in here for 10 minutes in your field and go somewhere else. So we would all still be able to harvest. But we can also sit down and have strategies about what are you doing to deal with them and whatever other stuff. But there is great opportunities out there for us as farmers that can focus on indigenous and stuff there is also, we're not in spaces of like children, because remember our biggest problem, we've got high lifestyle diseases in this country, and it's because of what we're eating. We've got to go back to basics, eat the right stuff, so we don't bloat the healthcare systems. We do not have all of these lifestyle diseases, because we've got more poor people in the country that have got no means of keeping themselves alive. They don't have the medical aid. They're standing there in the queue, taking the pills every day. It's not really helping them. And you can take the pill, but still eat the poison. It doesn't really help you anyway. So
and doctors are recommending cassava leaves. That's one of the troubles of cassava now.
Yeah, I mean, we get it. I don't even know what the doctors have found, but we get people calling us and saying, listen, my mommy said she bought this. The doctor says she needs to take cassava leaves. So we're seeing that. So you can also do your own homework if you're coming from the healthcare sector. Try and research and read. We do have got information about the nutritional value where some academics and professionals, what they did a comparison of three what we call popular exotic vegetables, which were Swiss chard, the spinach, cabbage, and kale. They compared that with amaranth, lirutu, which is called cleome, cowpea leaves, pumpkin leaves, and the nightshade leaves. They did a comparison of that, and by far, these indigenous vegetables far outweigh these 3 vegetables from your iron, for beta carotene to whatever. We can share that. We've also simplified it from a scientific, instead of saying 1,001, we've indicated this is 10 times, or has got 20 times more. And as a country, South Africa is iron and vitamin A deficient. So the indigenous vegetables are our answer in keeping the population healthy. So when you start growing that, and a lot of these vegetables are continuous harvest. So it's not like a once off. So you can imagine if you're doing your amaranth, it's continuous. And you really don't have to plant it where you had it previously, it is going to continue to regrow. That's an easier way than to have to keep on replanting and worrying about spacing. Is it 15 centimeters between the plants and 25 centimeters between the rows and whatever, all of that other stuff. It is, we are farming hard. Let us farm smart. And let us do regenerative farming. Thank you.
You can't run away. I'm sure there are going to be lots of questions. Thank you very much. As you can see, I think that the Siphiwe story perfectly tells a story of how you start with marketing and go back to farming. Okay, rather than I have a product and I don't know where I'm going to sell it. And if you can find a niche, or in your case create a niche, well, then that's a great thing to focus on. But I'm sure there are lots of questions.
Oh, and if you watch DSTV, what show is it? Is on Showmax? I'm sorry, we don't watch TV. But one of your popular shows, Shagailembe, is going to be featuring our plants on there, because they were showcasing maize and things that weren't actually in the time, and a historian made them change what they're showcasing. So there will be an interest.
In the 1800s, so now they know Dr. Alex people stepped in and said, "No, guys, you got the discrimination perfect, but you got it wrong." And then they obviously have to think where they're going to find it. And they came to us, so we've been looking into sorghum stems and millet and whatever, and the calabashes and whatever other stuff. That's what was being consumed. Yes, sir. That is red sorghum. So this is red sorghum. That's red sorghum. And even the white sorghum, when you now take it out, and you can also maintain it in the cow, the way you take out the outer husk kind of stuff. So whatever you can do with couscous, with a quinoa, you can also do with sorghum. So from your salad, cooking it as a whole grain. A lot of people know sorghum crushed, either coarse or fine. So when you now cook it like whole, you can actually create whatever dishes you are going to have with the rice, with quinoa and with couscous.
And the white one can replace rice as well.
And you can also mix the two. So you can cook both the rice and the white. It looks beautiful. We work with quite a lot of chefs, and they are creating amazing dishes. There's an organization called Harvesting Heritage where they run the chefs competition, and they are using things. Yesterday we got a request from Chef 40 Mazon of 42 restaurants in with Rich, and we got a request. Okay, can we have 10 kg of indigenous beans? So we now know when it says indigenous beans, it means the Bambara beans. So we can have an order for 10 kg of indigenous beans plus 10 kg of Morocco. We don't even know which one he needed. We said to him, and then the person who was helping said, "Yeah, you can have pumpkin leaves and amaranth." I said, "No, too expensive, not going to work." So I said, "No, we're going to give you sweet potato leaves, amaranth, and I think they also gave him it was amaranth, it was sweet potato leaves, and the cassava leaves. He was entering a competition, or he also wanted African pumpkins. So we gave him the African pumpkins as well.
Oh, and there's a complaint from tourists who come to South Africa that they feel like they don't have like an African experience in restaurants because all you get is French food and that. Yeah. So chefs actually need to learn how to eat, like cook our food.
Yeah. So even if you go to some of the game lodges, so they would give you the impala, the kudu, the buffalo, and everything else as the meat, so you get the hours in Africa. But then what do? They give you cream spinach. Next week. It just spoils the whole thing, And then when somebody says, can you take me to an African restaurant? I want to get authentic South African food. What do? You struggle. You send messages, where can I take this person? Because all you're gonna find is like puravors, some steak and chops with chakalaka and pap, and that's supposed to be South African. Okay, somebody here. You can assist me. Well, if you're doing it on small scale, you don't have to have the equipment. Have you seen people in Lesotho and the other places where there's something in an African culture called ilima or litsima? When it's harvest time, you invite other people. I'm sure it happens even amongst the other farming community. If you had too much to harvest, you call other people and say, guys, I need assistance with the harvest, and people come over. So they would then harvest that stuff. All you simply do, once this thing is almost dry, it's easy to play. They literally walk through the different ways and you can do them. Then you can easily have for the thresher. Some of those small ones where you put that stuff, you just pull the stuff. And as long as you make sure in harvesting that you don't drop your sorghum, because once you drop it, then you're going to have the soil and it becomes quite messy and it's going to be grainy. People don't want that. So you can easily do that for yourself. Because remember, the milling companies will not take anything less than 5 tons for processing. So if you're growing less, you can't be taking. So you'd have to look into some of those small machines that say, how do I do this to clean this thing and then be able to consume it for our own family. But if we have more people growing it, now we can get one person to invest into a small thresher that might be 5 point something that we all know. This is what I've seen people doing in Venda. If you go to Limpopo, not every household, people are crushing their own maize mill, but not every person owns the machine to crush the maize mill. There's one person that's done the investment. You bring in a bucket, you bring in a wheelbarrow or a tin, and then they crush it for you. They just charge you. We charge X amount for a kokok or a baguette or a 50 kg bag. You pay and you go home with a proper maize mill that still has got the outer part. Because remember, currently the maize mill that is super white because they've pulled out all the other healthy, nutritious thing. That stuff has gone into animal feed, chicken feed, and whatever other stuff. So you get this pure white thing that, because maize meal has got like 5.5% protein compared to 25 or 35% protein that you get from things like sorghum and millet.
And people from other African countries don't like our meal because it's white star on purpose. They like bleach it or some weird thing like that. It's supposed to be like a cream white color.
They take out the nutrient stuff and then they fortify it. Now you told it vitamin A enriched.
Things.
What happened to the vitamin A that was there in the first place? Why did you have to now add it?
Into the car.
Yeah. All right. You had a question. Don't buy them. Yeah. If you don't get them in the shop. So if you're looking, I always say to you, if you're looking for beans in the shop, you're gonna find those haricot beans, those small white ones, and find sugar beans, butter beans, sometimes red kidney beans, and mung beans in some of the shops. And some of the special black beans. So in most of the retail outlets, you do not find more than 5 types of beans. And all of us, we know that we grew up in homes where there were lots of beans. Those beans are normal. You can't find them in the shops. You can't even find the seed. And when I started, part of the reason why I started doing seeds was that I would go and be looking for certain seeds. And I get given like a small tin. Like, this is 500 grams. So how long is it going to take me to start being able to plant a hectare? Because I had to grow the beans and not eat them. And replant and not eat them. So people say, how do these beans? I said, I don't know. I have not had the chance to taste them because each time I'm thinking, if I just take even 100 grams, I've lost so many other seeds if I'm counting how much each green plant can give me. So now we're at a stage where we have got enough of seeds that we can sell to the other people, and we can be able to say, here, this commodity is in demand. Please go in. You will not going to struggle. So you are gonna have you're gonna have a problem. So if you are surrounded by people that are commercial farmers that are spraying and doing all sorts of other stuff, first of all, besides, so if your farm was here, it's a low-lying area and you've got the guys on the upper side. whatever poison they are putting into the plants, either to kill the weeds or anything like that, and some of the fertilizers they are using, that stuff is going to sift through to your side if you are on the lower side of the agricultural area. So you need to be looking where you are in relation to your neighbors. Two, these guys are aerial spraying. This is like massive stuff. When they're spraying that stuff, now you're going to have drift. So unless you're in an area like this where there's like lots of trees, maybe the guys that are spraying are there and you are here. So you might have problems with drift as well. So there's a number of things that you're going to have. And plus also maize gets pollinated. So it's easy for your seeds to suddenly stop being whatever they're supposed to be. So that is why even for you to get that organic certification, when they do the farm visit, they look at how far, so they'll ask you about the history of the farm. What are you guys currently growing? Your neighbors, what are they doing? And then if people are doing things like maize or doing whatever stuff that they are spraying, it might affect you even getting that organic certification, because you're going to be affected by the other. Hence, it's important to go into the politics of influence. Persuade your neighbors and sometimes show